I'm standing in probably the ugliest part of my backyard right now, and of course I'm showing it to you. If you were here on a garden tour, I wouldn't dare let you in my gate until absolutely everything was perfect. But this corner, and it gets even uglier if you go over there underneath my window box, this is all on the north and the northwest side of my house. And if anything took a punch this winter, it was this whole area here. Normally this is all full, it's all green, and I don't really have to do anything to it. But this year I lost so many plants that I'm kind of having to start over. So I wanted to give you an idea of what my strategy is. Now, these Nandina that are all barren right now, these are putting out new growth, and pretty soon I will have a wall of green along here. Now, it takes a little bit longer on this exposure for them to fill out than on some of the other exposures because it's a little bit shadier over here. But nevertheless, this will heal itself and these will be fine. Now, I lost everything in these planters here, including some things that had been in there for years and years. And so in my thinking about just trying to use what I have, I've done this before and I'm going to do it this year. Someone asked about this also in one of my previous videos. I have all of these amaryllis bulbs that were over there by my potting shed. And actually, these make beautiful foliage plants in the summertime. So I think in this pot, I'm gonna plant just a lot of these amaryllis bulbs. I was not responsible about noting which color was what, but nevertheless, I'm not gonna worry about it. The strappy foliage will be beautiful to fill this gap right here. I'll probably put a tall evergreen in here and then some seasonal color down here. But that's kind of my strategy because I was horrified when we did our walkabout on Wednesday and this all looked so awful. And but it is a work in progress. Again, everything is taking me so much longer to get up and going this year because I would say I'm having to replant 50% more pots and things of that nature than I normally would because I've got to replace so many things. This whole area in here will be, some of them are Nandinas and will come out. I'll fill this in with some other things. I've got to completely redo the window box, and I'll probably let you guys do that with me. Somebody commented that I always am walking around with something to drink in my hand and I never sip. Well, usually it's because I take a sip when Stuart is looking at a plant. But now let's go through the garden because today what I really want to talk about is what's going on in the Protege, but we get to go past the geranium theater, which I think is looking very, very pretty. And I've still got a lot to do back here, but it's shaping up nicely. Now, I have something kind of exciting, both sad and exciting to tell you. So these chairs that have been a permanent fixture in my backyard, they're famous chairs. They've been in a lot of magazine shoots. They were from a company called Tidewater, but they finally, I mean, we use these a lot, don't we, Stuart? A lot. Hubs and I sit here and sometimes have a cocktail in the evening. And finally, they've just given it up. And so as much as I love them, I had to replace them, and my new chairs came today. So these, I think, very much have kind of a similar vibe to the ones I had before. These are a little bit larger, a little bit sturdier. I got these off of Amazon. You do have to put them together, but I'll put a link below. I think they look great with the color of the trim and everything on my house. Stuart, if you don't mind kind of panning around to, you can see they're almost exactly the color of the trim on the studio doors. So I'm really excited to have them, and Stuart just told me that now he can sit without fearing for his life in the backyard. So come into the Protege, and I know you guys like to see me work, And maybe I'll do this work on camera, but I've had to kind of think through what I'm going to do back here. And here, I think, is what I'm going to do. First, let me show you something really exciting. By the way, I'm drinking hot chocolate because it's really chilly out today. I thought these were never going to germinate. You may recall, and Stuart will put a link to this video where I planted all of these buckets, and this one was planted with cardoons. I thought they were never going to germinate, but they did. And in fact, multiples of those seeds germinated, and so I'll probably prick those out and put them in some different locations. Look at my nasturtiums and calendula over there, you guys. They're really going to be beautiful, I think, and probably will be relocated from there. So if you've seen some of my previous videos along this border in the past, and I encourage you to maybe go back in time if you want to see what it looked like last summer. It was really beautiful. I had 3 huge mounds of Chef's Choice rosemary, which were here for 3 years. They were absolutely spectacular. Heartbreakingly, I lost them, as many, I think I haven't talked to anybody this year in Oklahoma who didn't lose any rosemary that was in the ground. But I lost 3 huge mounds of those. So I think what I'm going to do is a couple of different things. I've got some, oh, and let me show you this, you guys. My basil has all germinated, which makes me think that I might plant some seeds of some spicy globe basil. Granted, it's an annual, but I might do that along the border here. Someone else asked me what this was in a pot I had up front. If you're looking for a boxwood substitute, you guys, this is Teucrium or germander, and it's an herb, and it's really tough, and you can keep it very tightly sheared, and it kind of gives the illusion of boxwood a little bit. This pot here, I think I'm going to put one of those cardoon seeds in the center, and then I'm going to, around the perimeter, I think I'm going to plant all of these gray lovelies. I've got some marjoram. This is that garbanzo bean that I showed you, and then I'll have that gray cardoon in the center. I think it'll be really gorgeous. So I think that is going to be my strategy for this pot. A portrait in gray. It will all be in beautiful grays, because I always like to have a little bit of a Mediterranean vibe back here. You can see that all the alliums are really, really maturing, as are the poppies. And no, I told you last week I was going to get around to cutting back my tall phlox. And have I done that yet? No, I still haven't done that yet, but I have done some other things. So I'm not going to beat myself up too much. There's some iris. Look at that. Great big old fat iris pod. So my goal is to get this whole area looking really nice before this stuff comes into bloom. I'm going to have to do some mulching back here. So in this big bucket here, I had a topiary. It was an Arizona cypress double ball topiary, and I lost it. So I think what I'm going to do is take these mounds of woolly thyme, boy that smells good, and this sedum autumn joy that's in here, and because I really am, believe it or not, trying to have less container plantings this year, I think I'm going to take this out and maybe also plant it in the border. And that's why I have a bag of builder sand there, not play sand, but builder sand there, because the thyme will like that. And so I think I'm going to try to get that thyme to spill out over the edge. And then back here, I need to clip my boxwoods. But I'm not going to do it now. Number one, they're wet. And number two, all of this foliage that's kind of droopy, I want it to get turgid and firm again before I do any clipping on it. Otherwise, the clipping really won't be uniform. So as soon as that stands up and flies right, I'll prune that, and I think it'll be really beautiful. I'm still waiting, and I don't know that this euonymus is going to come out. This burning bush euonymus is going to come out, but I'm giving it a little bit more time. And I did pot up and got out of the greenhouse. I've got a bay and a bambino pineapple guava, and I've got a fig that came out of the greenhouse. And then Stuart was commenting he'd never seen this before. It was so open. There's a whole 5 feet behind there, which in retrospect I probably would have captured originally in my design rather than have it relegated to just Nandina. But nevertheless, the Nandina is coming out, and before it comes out completely, I will get back there and I will cut back. There's a little bit of a fence repair that needs to be made, and then I'm going to cut back all of this Virginia creeper. So it may seem like a lot, and it kind of is, but it's nothing more than an afternoon of work. And I think that will be really fun. These are the Silverado sage topiaries that came out of the greenhouse. They are very happy, and look, Stuart, putting out all sorts of new growth. And a lot of this stuff really wants the heat, you guys. So as soon as it starts getting warm, these things will flush out almost immediately. Now, one thing that's a little bit different this year than in previous years is that I normally have already put out a bunch of cool season greens and radishes, my favorite arugula, and this year, because there's been so many other things to do, that I just haven't gotten the seed in. And so I think, and also because our weather has been really kind of wacky. It's been very cool, and then it got really hot and windy for a while, and now it's cooled down again. So I think what I'm going to do, since it's April 15th, we're at the frost date, and I think what I'm going to do is just wait and enjoy the larkspur and the things that are already coming up in here. I'll let them bloom, and then after they bloom, I'll come back in here probably with my warm season veggies, with my peppers and my tomatoes and my basils. And I think it's okay every once in a while to just kind of skip a season. Plus, I have done some pots of greens, and I do have some chard, and I do have some fresh greens that I can use. But every year is a little bit different. Looky over here. Look at these big fat buds of iris. These were gifted to me by a friend. I find iris blooms to be beautiful and very exotic, but boy, they last a nanosecond. So I really grow them probably more for their foliage. Stuart, if you could show them, look at that. Isn't nature just fascinating? Look at how that purple is starting to shine through on there. And these have been in here for 3 years, I think. These are Allium Ambassador, and these are from Color Blends, and I'll make sure to put a link below to where I got them. You do have to plant them in the fall. I think in some climates you can plant them in the spring. Somebody made the comment, and I so appreciated it because it's really helped me think things through. And that's that while I think of myself as gardening in Zone 7B, that this year we've really been gardening in Zone 5 after the winter. So that's helped me reframe things and look at things a little bit differently, not only for now as I'm gardening, but also as I garden in the future. So maybe we're now at Zone 5, but with 100+ degree temperatures in the summer. Is that right, Stuart? So that's what's going on. Lots of poppies, lots of color to come. And And you can see that the Virginia creeper has revisited me at the top of the fence, and it looks very pretty there. I'll just have to keep it tamed. So that's what's going on here. I want to know what's going on where you are. I do read those comments, and then I'll just close by saying you guys have a great weekend. And Stuart, if you'll just kind of turn around slowly and show how pretty it looks with the geraniums and the viburnum in the distance. And when everything is completely garden tour ready and meets my my expectations, then we'll do a comprehensive tour of the front and the back with everything staged and styled to within an inch of its life. In the meantime, you guys have a great weekend.